but she didn't think about that. She was like a hunted animal now. As long as the pack was after her, she must run till she dropped. The marsh wiggle was ahead, and as he came to the lowest step he stopped, looked a little to his right, and all of a sudden darted into a little hole crevice at the bottom of it. His long legs disappearing into it looked very like those of a spider. Scrub hesitated and then vanished after him. Joel, breathless and reeling, came into a place about a minute later. It was an unattractive hole, a crack between the earth and the stone about 3 feet long and hardly more than a foot high. You had to fling yourself flat on your face and crawl in. You couldn't do it so very quickly either. She felt sure that a dog's teeth would close on her heel before she had got inside. Quick, quick, stones! Fill up the opening! Came Puddlegum's voice in the darkness beside her. It was pitch black in there, except for the grey light in the opening by which they had crawled in. The other two were working hard. She could see Scrub's small hands and the Marsh Wiggle's big frog-like hands black against the light, working desperately to pile up the stones. Then she realized how important this was and began groping for large stones herself, handing them to the others. Before the dogs were baying and yelping at the cave mouth, they had it pretty well filled, and now, of course, there was no light at all. "Farther in, quick," said Puddlegum's voice. "Let's all hold hands," said Joel. "Good idea," said Scrub, but it took them quite a long time to find another's hands in the darkness. The dogs were sniffing at the other side of the barrier now. "Try if we can stand up," suggested Scrub. They did and found that they could. Then Puddlegum, holding a hand behind him to Scrub, and Scrub holding a hand behind him to Joel, who wished very much that she was in the middle one of the party and not the last, they began groping with their feet and stumbling forwards into the darkness. It was all loose stones on the foot. Then Puddlegum came up to a wall of rock. They turned a little to the right and went on. There were a good many more twists and turns. Joel had now no sense of direction at all, and no idea where the mouth of the cave lay. "The question is," came Puddlegum's voice out of the darkness ahead, "whether, taking one with another, it wouldn't be better to go back if we can, and give the giants a treat at that feast of theirs, instead of losing our way in the guts of a hill where 10 to 1 there's dragons and deep-holes and gases and water and— Ow! Let go! Save yourselves! After that all happened quickly. There was a wild cry, a swishing, dusty, gravelly noise, a rattle of stones, and Joel found herself sliding, hopelessly sliding, and sliding quicker every moment down a slope that grew steeper every moment. It was not a smooth, firm slope, but a slope of small stones and rubbish. Even if you could have stood up, it would have been no use. Any bit of that slope you had put on your foot would have slid away from under you and carried you down with it. But Joel was more lying than standing. And the further they all slid, the more they disturbed all the stones and earth, so that the general downward rush of anything, including themselves, got faster and louder and dustier and dirtier. From the sharp cries and swearing of the other two, Joel got the idea that many of these stones which she was dislodging were hitting Scrub and Puddlegum pretty hard, and now she was going at a furious rate and felt sure she would be broken to bits at the bottom. Sorry about that. Yet somehow they weren't. There were massive bruises, and the wet sticky stuff on her face appeared to be blood. And such a mass of loose earth, shingle, and larger stones was piled up around her and partly over her that she couldn't get up. The darkness was so complete that it made no difference at all whether you had your eyes open or shut. There was no noise, and that was the very worst moment Joel had ever known in her life. Supposing she was alone, supposing the others. Then she heard movements around her, and presently all three, in shaken voices, were explaining that none of them seemed to have any broken bones. "We can never get up that again," said Scrub's voice. "And have you noticed how warm it is?" said the voice of Puddlegum. "That means we're a really long way down. Might be nearly a mile." No one said anything. Some time later Puddlegum added, "My tinderbox is gone." After a long pause Joel said, "I'm terribly thirsty." No one suggested doing anything. There was so obviously nothing to be done. For the moment they did not feel quite so badly as one might have expected. That was because they were so tired. Long afterwards, without the slightest warning, an utterly strange voice spoke. They knew it at once, that it was not the voice in the whole world for which each had secretly been hoping, the voice of Aslan. It was a dark, flat voice, almost, if you know what that means, a pitch-black voice. It said, "What make you here, creatures of the overworld?"